I'm Chisgule Gaming, and if you are wondering how to get more legendary commander sculptures, you're in the right place. Hello my friends and welcome back. In this video we're going to talk about how you get more legendary commander sculptures and how you do so in a way that gets you value. If you like Rise of Kingdoms guides that help you get value and smash your enemies, then consider smashing the subscribe button for daily Rise of Kingdoms guides and videos. My friends, this is one of the most asked questions that we receive is, how do I get more of these legendary commander sculptures? And I have good news for you. We've chronicled all the different ways you can plan to get legendary commander sculptures, and I think talking about some of these will help you better prepare. Now, I've broken these down into a couple categories. There are regular events. We'll start there. We'll talk about some infrequent events, which are important to review and plan for. And last but not least, there will be some seasonal events that we'll talk about. And as always with my more in-depth videos, there will be timestamps in the description to jump to any area that you want to hit. So without further ado, let's get into the regular events and things that you can do to get legendary commander sculptures. And in fact, we should even baseline, like, what is a legendary commander sculpture worth as you think about any of these things? If you were high enough level VIP, you could go into your VIP shop and for 2,000 gems a pop, every week you can get legendary commander sculptures, a total of 20 of them. Now that is very, 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 very expensive, but we're going to use that as the baseline for a regular event and what you could spend on a legendary commander sculpture. Don't spend your gems on this. I spend a ridiculous amount of gems to get legendary commander sculptures, and I don't spend them here. For a time I did, and even I find this too expensive. So let's talk about some of these other regular things that you can do to get legendary commander sculptures. First and foremost, and importantly, is your VIP. In the daily chests, you can get some legendary commander sculptures. The threshold of value for most players will be achieved at level 10 of VIP. You get a legendary commander sculpture every day, and that really adds up. You're also getting a gold key that could land you some legendary commander sculptures as well. In addition to that, this will, of course, scale up. At VIP 12, you can get 2 a day, and at VIP 14, you can start getting 3 legendary commander sculptures every single day. I want to also call your attention to the fact that every single day when you're doing your daily quest, which of course you're doing, you can get a gold key here and open that up, maybe get some legendary commander sculptures out of that. Now, one event that is every 2 weeks that you all know and love is the Mighty Governor event, the Mightiest Governor. We're not going to go in depth on the Mightiest Governor event in this video. What I'll say is that your average player should not be trying to win Mighty Governor. You should try to win one of the other events that we're about to go talk about to get your legendary commander sculptures. The challenge with this event is that it really is going to be heavily weighted to the players who do a boatload of training. I trained 100 million power, or I guess 100 million points, 10 million power in T5 troops for this event, and this event will typically be dominated by the big spenders. So if you are a big spender, this is where you can hunt. It'll be owned primarily by troop training and also the combat portion of the event, the last 2 days. However, let's steer you into some of the events that are more likely to be winnable for most players, and I'll say that it'll be infrequent with how common you can sort of vie for a top position in one of these events, but you can do it. And I will have a link in the description to a video that covers in depth how to win events as a free-to-play player. We don't want to do that here. It would be way too long of a video already. Now, the kind of event that I think is much more reasonable for you to hunt for as a lower tier spender or free-to-play player is either the building or research-specific events. There is also a training-specific event of this caliber where you either gain power or spend minutes of speed-ups to rank and get an upwards of 20 legendary commander sculptures. Now, the downside with that style of event, and even a Mighty Governor style event, is that there is disproportionate rewards for being at the top. So number one for this event I described for buildings and training and research is going to get 20 sculptures. Number two is going to get 10, and it drops off pretty steep from there. So in these events, you really want to hunt a first place finish, and I promise you that other people will try to snipe your first place finish, even in the last minutes, using a bunch of speed ups and a bunch of stuff to try to bump you out of position. So keep that in mind when you think about getting sculptures from that style of event. Another style of event that takes place is called Warpath. I don't happen to have it up here, but you train some troops and you get some gold keys for it. One trick for that event is to train tier 2 because those will be faster to train, and then you don't have to use any speed ups to hit the minimum number of troops trained to get the maximum rewards. One other very important event that you'll see on a regular basis is going to be Ark of Osiris. Now this, every 2 weeks, might be one of the very best ways to secure 5 to 10 legendary commander sculptures. I mean, that's almost a sculpture a day if you're winning, not quite. But it's really solid to pick up 10 legendary commander sculptures for a win if you can swing it. And to do that, you'll need to participate with your alliance and be invited to that. So I would highly recommend that if you're not involved in your ARC team, that you get involved, because that's a sweet way to get some sculptures. And you do have to hit some performance thresholds, right? You have to hit a certain amount of points in order to get more sculptures. So if you only score between 3,000 and 6,000 points, you're only going to get 3 sculptures over here if you're losing, or 5 if you're winning. The next very common way that every day you can pick up some legendary commander sculptures is going to be in the expedition. Occasionally, they show up over here for 2,500 medals. For that reason, I try to maintain at least 10,000 medals in the expedition store so that I can go in and pick up legendary commander sculptures if they do show up here. And those show up not in the form of universals, but as specific commanders. And I believe they're always the same as the gold key commanders. Now, there's a couple more regular events that you know about that we do need to talk about, and that is the Wheel of Fortune and Card King. These wheel events and Card King events are a great way to pick up legendary commander sculptures. The advantage of the Wheel of Fortune is that as you spin the wheel and spend your gems to do so, you are going to work your way toward different tiers based on the number of times you do it and get extra rewards. Many folks often advise that you try to spin the Wheel of Fortune to at least the 10 spot every time it comes around because there's such good rewards, 5 extra sculptures, for doing so. What I'll advise you is that if you don't have the gems for it, you don't have the gems for it, and that's okay. You don't have to try to spin it every time, but the value is incredibly high if you can farm up some gems to spin to this tier. There is a card in the description of this video. You don't have to watch it now, but you can get to that at the end that'll tell you how to farm over 1,000 gems a day so that you can do things like the wheel events. Now, there is also a universal wheel, which offers universal legendary commander sculptures. Between the specific commander wheels, like this Ramses wheel, and the universal wheels, as long as you wanted the commander that was on the specific commander wheel, you're getting much better value with the specific commander wheel than the universal wheel. And I think the universal wheel is even still better than the Card King, assuming you're still working toward these extra reward tiers, because the Card King is going to be more gems per sculpture, but you get to pick the commander among a set of commanders that is available to you. Now, this is a great way to get a commander that you missed out on, or to get a commander that you wouldn't have had access to otherwise. And we've got a ton of Card King related videos, but I'll put one of those in the description as well if you want to see exactly what that looks like. You match up cards, and there's some ways to do that in an extra value way, just unlocking the legendary commander sculptures if you're lucky and ignoring the other rewards. But with all of that said, specific commander wheels, universal wheels, and Card King, and I'd really think of Card King more as the way to get a commander you need that you couldn't get another way. All of these things better than getting them from that VIP area I showed you earlier. Now that covers the regular events. Let's talk about some of the infrequent events that sometimes show up, and you'll peep those over here on the event calendar. They can give you some extra legendary commander sculptures. The first way is the Karok ceremony. There are both individual challenges and alliance challenges that can hook you up with a bunch of legendary commander sculptures, I think north of 10 in a single round. And this event shows up roughly once every month, which is a pretty solid way to get those sculptures. You will most likely need to use action point potions in order to complete the Karok ceremony, and you also will need to make sure that your alliance schedules those bosses so that you can participate in them and get the rewards and a chance at some legendary commander sculptures. That is rewarded. I've seen people get maybe as many as 3 sculptures after battling all the bosses. So don't plan to get a ton, but look, 3 sculptures is 6,000 gems of value. I'll freaking take it. The next event that is very new is Arms Master Training. And again, card in the description to see Arms Master Training. This was one of my favorite events in Rise of Kingdoms by far. It is, if you do well, a way to get another 20 legendary commander sculptures, and it does drop off very steeply. I believe top 10 gets 8 legendary commander sculptures, and the only folks that I think are going to score there are your mega spenders in a kingdom. So don't set your heart on that if you are free to play. Focus on other events. Speaking of other events you could focus on, one of them is the Race Against Time. This is also an event for which we've done many times and placed in the top 5 or 10. The rewards fall off outside of top 10, and I think this is an event oriented towards, frankly, some of the bigger spenders because they're going to have the kind of high power marches it will take to win it. So let's focus on some other stuff, such as the events for Barb and Barb for Killing, which often can give you gold keys, and sometimes I think offer some sculptures for running around and killing lots of barbs, or running around and having a high sustain march that doesn't have to go back to town. Yet another way you can get a few more sculptures, and that happens very infrequently, sometimes with holidays. The next event you really should be on the lookout for, to do with your alliance, and this is, I think, a monthly event, is called the Silk Road. You escort a caravan to its destination, and if you hit above a score threshold, depending on the difficulty you're playing on, you can get an upwards of 2 legendary commander sculptures every single time you run it, and you can run the event 3 times when it shows up, that once-a-month cycle. So we picked up 6 legendary commander sculptures when this was last here, which is awesome, and you can check your point threshold to see if you're going to make it to the legendary commander sculpture tier in the event screen, and you only have to score that bare minimum, then you can let other people hit stuff to get some points. Couple other really big, infrequent events that can get you some legendary commander sculptures. That includes More Than Gems. We'll have a link in the description for that. More Than Gems rewards you for spending gems you were going to spend anyways. Great way to get some extra sculptures. If you haven't watched a video on that, definitely go check out the one in the description and do that at the end of this video. Another way that does involve spending, it is an infrequent event, is called a recharge event. It'll show up just above the super value bundles. When you spend money and get an upwards of 2,500 gems in a given day, you get extra rewards. 3 of the tiers of that give 10 legendary commander sculptures, which is very good. So if you're spending in the tune of $60 over 5 days, you can get those extra sculptures and some extra goodies as well. The last infrequent event that I want to talk about is one that rewards you a city skin, some material chests, and also some legendary commander sculptures. And we've won 2 of those events, not gotten first, but we got Saints Halo, which was an amazing city skin. We're still using it obviously right now. And also we won an infantry skin, Age of Devotion, from that style of event. That is won by gaining an outrageous amount of power in a very short amount of time. If you're pushing T5, it is achievable if you have enough speed ups to gain literally to the tune of 20 million power. I would not aim for this as a free-to-play or even as a spender. I stay away from this event now because it's just so unpredictable what someone will do, and we'll have a link in the description where we talk about this style of event and whether or not it's a thing you should be going for. Okay, so that covers the infrequent events. Let's talk about some of the seasonal events that you could do to get legendary commander sculptures. The first seasonal event is something that's happening actually right now. That's Kingdom versus Kingdom. This is something that you experience in sort of seasons where it shows up. You do some events before the season begins that actually rewards you a bunch of stuff and will influence the season itself. And then all throughout, there will be things that can give you legendary commander sculptures. Those show up as Crusader achievements for individual, alliance, and kingdom. And there's a bunch of ways to get sculptures in here. We're personally working on our individual honor gain to get the sculptures over here at the highest tier. For us, we need 155,000 honor to get 6 sculptures, which is going to be really cool. If you want to know how to gain honor, I'll have a link in the description for how you can gain boatloads of honor in Kingdom versus Kingdom, killing barbarians naturally. The next thing that I want to talk about in KVK is that there's so many things here. If you're in a Light and Darkness KVK, there are stages here for Light and Darkness that if you place really high, you can get a sculpture. I mean, like, not too much to write home about here. There are a lot of gold keys too, so it's worth mentioning, and gold keys could convert into legendary commander sculptures. I mean, KVK is just rich with things that can give you sculptures, including even the Twilight rewards. Some of these Twilight rewards give you gold keys, or at the tail end, used to give some legendary commander sculptures. Looks like I'm having some difficulty finding those, but if you're in Season 1 or Season 2 of KVK, they're definitely there. In fact, there's so many rewards at the end of KVK that it is crucial for our jumper process when you're creating a new account that you go to a kingdom that is winning KVK. Link to that in the description as well. So much to talk about here. So the next thing I want to talk about, though, that is a seasonal event, one being KVK. The next is Ark of Osiris League. Now, Ark of Osiris League, we've only had 2 seasons of it, but there are a number of stores. Not only can you compete in League and potentially, if you're one of the top alliances, get a bunch of legendary commander sculptures, but everybody gets to bet on which alliance will win. You get a currency by doing things you probably would have done anyways every single day. We'll show that in a second. And you can get legendary commander sculptures from that. In addition, Eye for Talent lets you pick on which alliance you think is going to win. If you're right, legendary commander sculptures over here. And if you're playing an Ark of Osiris League, you can play every single week instead of every other week for your Ark of Osiris. And that's basically doubling the rate of sculpture gain you get for Ark of Osiris. Very, very solid. Really like that. This is a phenomenal seasonal event that if you can get involved with it, I would highly recommend it. Again, Osiris is such a good way to get those regular sculptures. Now, the last style of event I wanted to talk about is actually qualifies as a seasonal event, but it's a holiday event. And these holiday events might actually be some of the best gem value you can get. One event in particular that is a holiday event lets you basically, you're running around the map killing barbarians and hunting barbed forts and a bunch of things that give you a currency, and you turn that currency in to rebuild a tree or stuff a turkey. We'll put a card in or a link in the description if you want to see what some of that could look like. I think most recently we were collecting branches. And you can spend 7,000 gems to unlock a higher tier of that event. That is a phenomenal way, arguably the most value way in the game to get legendary commander sculptures, but it is going to take a lot of work. But you'll do the work. You'll farm the barbs. You'll farm the resources on the map to get the materials. Again, link in the description for how to optimize in that style of event. And of course, anytime a holiday comes around, we'll cover that again. The last mechanism that you can use to get a bunch of legendary commander sculptures is going to be buying bundles. There's a couple bundles that are worth talking about. The first is called a Writer of History. We've covered this on our channel many times, but anytime you unlock a new legendary commander that you didn't have before, we've got them all unlocked right now, but anytime you unlock one, you get the Writer of History bundle. It costs $5. You can get 10 sculptures, and if you're spending, that's a pretty solid way to go. Another bundle that mega spenders buy, and I wouldn't recommend otherwise, is going to be Living Legend. This is going to have gold keys, and at the top end, legendary commander sculptures. Again, you really need to be a mega whale spending ridiculous amounts of money for this to be a bundle that might make some sense. Another bundle that has legendary commander sculptures is the daily special offer. This rotates which commander you get based on whether or not you have this commander expertise. It starts with Cao Cao, goes to Martel, then it goes to Sid, then it goes to Caesar, then it goes to Mehmed, I believe, and then Frederick the First. And at that point, they stop giving you new commanders to buy from these bundles. It takes a lot of money to do that if you're buying these bundles, but I will call out that the Treasure of the King also has some action points and a gold key in it, which is pretty solid if you are making your way toward expertising a commander that is in here, but you don't get to control which commander is next, so I don't really care about Caesar. I'm not buying this bundle. The last style of bundle I want to talk about is holiday bundles. Occasionally, there is a currency that you get in holiday events that you use. You spend basically this currency to convert into legendary commander sculptures, and you can spend, if you're not buying the bundle that has it, you can spend 1,000 gems to get a legendary commander sculpture, which is not terrible value, but I'm going to make the argument that I think you get even better value other ways from different events that we've described earlier, starting with that 7,000 gem tree building event, and even Wheels of Fortune, I think are probably better value. But if you actually have the fortitude to farm up thousands of gems every single day using the guidance we provided in the description of this video, in the gem farming guide, then you can definitely go and spend those gems on legendary commander sculptures, and that's yet another way. My friends, this was, I believe, a very comprehensive guide on where you can get legendary commander sculptures in Rise of Kingdoms. If there's something we missed, please do leave a comment on the video with either the mechanism we missed or your favorite way to go and get legendary commander sculptures in Rise of Kingdoms. And if you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing for more daily Rise of Kingdoms guides that help you get value and smash your enemies. One other playlist I would highly recommend to you is in the description of this video as well. It's my Ultimate Guide series, very good for beginning players or even players pushing to T5. Until next time, my friends, you have fun smashing the kingdom.